So much of this film is a play of ideas, and the information is revealed slowly in a very strategic way. I imagine that writing the script was quite the task. Can you talk a little bit about that process and any research that you did as well?
Yeah, so much research. We really wanted to do a movie in the tradition of like Inherent the Wind, or even, oddly enough, this is going to be a weird comparison, but Robert Zemeckis' Contact. Basically a film that's a conversation about religion. And we started writing the script about 10 years ago. We got to about 15 pages in with the missionaries knocking on the door, and then they meet Mr. Reed. And Mr. Reed has a genius level IQ and an understanding of every religion on earth, and these were things we didn't know enough about. So we kind of took a pause for a bit and just started filling our heads with different religion and just learning a lot. Basically learning enough to pretend to be as smart as Mr. Reed. And then we went from there. But the basic idea that we were hoping to try to do is a horror film where the horror is not necessarily blood and guts or monsters or jump scares. It's more about the ideas.
There's some good jump scares, though.
All right, we'll take it.
You mentioned those other influences, but is there a reason that you think horror offers a different path or a new avenue to talk about religion or values and beliefs?
I mean, there's a degree at which horror has a lineage of being like a Trojan horse. I mean, you look at Night of the Living Dead and what it says about race, invasion of the body snatchers, and what the United States was going through at the time. And so it felt kind of natural to us that horror is an entry point, kind of allows you to talk about anything really, because it is a vessel. Genre, though, is also like a very provoking place to put an audience. And I remember like one of the pieces that we were talking about in making this was Oleana. And even though that's not a horror film, like it's very divisive. Even the play itself, for anyone who has seen it, like it's been produced with multiple different endings, and the interpretation of that you can kind of take away, and we felt like the marriage of hopefully provoking the audience from a thoughtful perspective also would echo itself from a horror perspective also.
Hugh. This feels like a different role from your previous roles. What motivated you to take this part, and what drew you to it?
Well, that's not quite true. I mean, for the last 8 or 9 years, I've done freaks and weirdos, the baddies, yeah. But there was lots that was tempting here. I thought it was a fascinating character. I liked these two very much. I liked them on Zoom. I liked their films. I particularly liked Quiet Place. I thought A24 was cool. I'm cool. That's a good match. So yeah, there was lots of reasons to say yes.
Sophie and Chloe, going through the film, I really thought Sister Barnes was going to make it. And the film very cleverly subverts that. But the dynamic between you two shifts quite a bit throughout the film. Can you talk a little bit about how you built your relationship and talked about how that would be an arc throughout the film?
Yeah, I think there's a natural kinship between Chloe and I. Even within the callback, we talked about we both grew up Mormon, so I think that's a huge connection.
Which was a coincidence.
Which was a coincidence that we ended up in the cast.
They didn't try to find.
Yeah.
We didn't know we didn't know that they grew up Mormon, but there was a truth. Like the way they performed the characters, it was like.
It's like if you know,
something.
you know.
You know, if you know, you know. You know the truth when you hear it.
Yeah, it's interesting because you expect both of us to be really agreeable and very, just like, not to defy him or anything, and it really changes. And I think as soon as Barnes realizes that he's not going to let them go because they admit he's right, then that's when she starts to challenge him and everything. She starts to take control.
And we have to trust each other a lot.
Yeah.
And I think having that bond when we first met, it was so easy to trust you.
Yeah.
And I think with missionaries, you are put with a different companion every 6 to 12 weeks. You don't really know your we don't really know each other at all. Barnes and Paxton don't really know each other at all. We didn't really know each other at all. I mean, I felt like I went on a little mission.
I know.
It's a
During this
crazy,
crazy horror movie.
year and a half in 2 months. But yeah, it was just that connection we had.
This question is for everyone, and the producers might want to jump in as well. The cinematography of the film is exceptional, and it is shot mainly in a single indoor space as a chamber piece. So you have to make it exciting through long periods of talking, and really figure out innovative ways to shoot that same space. So what were some of the challenges there, and how did you kind of storyboard that?
Yeah, it's 3 people in a room talking for 2 hours.
It was terrifying, like the idea of trying to capture an audience's attention, and no one better to hire than Chung Chung. Credits of like old play. I'll just leave it there, old play. And so we knew there was a degree at which you didn't want to just let the audience sit with like the same camera coverage, and so much of what we talked about with Chung and frankly all the collaborators, because this was kind of an overriding principle, is that as the movie went on, it has to evolve. It needs to evolve in the performance, it needs to evolve in the visual language of it. And so that meant, an example would be starting in wides in the living room, but then slowly having the camera creep into these isolated close-ups as Reed is starting to, divide and conquer and zero in on Barnes and zero in on Paxton, and let the camera movement evolve over the course of it, so it felt like it was a dance that was sometimes challenging the characters.
I think the crew behind the camera was as gifted as the crew in front of the camera. We had superstars. We had Chung Fu. We had filmed the scene in his incredible art department to build that extraordinary set. We had Betsy Hyman. Our casting director, Carmen Cuba, actually knew they were both Mormons, and really understood the dynamic of having someone that you really never believed would be the first to die in a horror movie, and were there to really support everybody. I mean, it was an extraordinary, we filmed in Vancouver during the SAG strike, and we had the support of A24, we were a waiver film, and it gave us the greatest crew, and I think you see that very strongly in the film.
I want to make sure the audience has a chance to ask some questions. So. In the red, right there.
I do remember getting that note from your wife.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, sorry, we should repeat the question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was the misquote of Jim Jones, "Drink the Kool-Aid," deliberate?
We wrote it, we got the note, and we liked it. We liked the misquote, but it wasn't intentionally a misquote when we wrote it. Thanks for calling us out, though. Thank you.
Any questions in the balcony? Let's get some balcony questions. Right there. For Hugh, Chloe, and Sophie, was there a lot of energy needed to complete this film and some of the more rigorous scenes?
It was shattering, to be honest. I'm very, very glad I did it, and I love Vancouver as a city, but this was an industrial estate outside Vancouver. It's not the prettiest place in the world, and quite heavy, intensive dialogue, heavy scenes with 2 really weird directors. So it was quite hard work, but but I tell you, these 2 were geniuses, and wonderful to play scenes with. You never knew what they were going to do, and unbelievably difficult what they did have to do, all those shades of fear.
I can't remember the question, but it was really hard. Yeah, I think it was exhausting. I think week 1, I was like, I don't know if I can do this for every day for months.
Yeah, interesting being trapped in like two different sets. It feels very isolating, and I feel like that itself is very immersive.
We'd get free from one set, and we'd go to another set, and then go deeper into another set, into a basement, and it just we could never escape.
Why does the production sound like its own horror movie? Yes, right there, in the hat. So your character makes a lot of compelling points throughout the film. How were you able to reconcile your own beliefs with what the character's saying if they don't align?
Well, I was lucky because I'm not a great believer. Well, in fact, I found that Reed and I had an awful lot in common.
Moving on. Yes, right.